I'm feeling a wee bit bad about some of the things I said about George last night. Did I judge him too soon? Big Brother UK 2025 episode 4. I'm sorry that I'm posting this really late, but something happened last night and I didn't get a chance to make a video, and literally last minute plans have just popped up in the past hour and a half, so I'm doing my best. The 4 new housemates were in the diary room talking about who's going to get the second evil eye, and Richard came up with a plan that he would interview each housemate and ask who they would save and who they would evict. And I'm surprised Big Brother allowed this, because that is talking about nominations. To be honest, I prefer it when they're allowed to talk about nominations, because then we get to see what they're really thinking. The housemates were out in the garden and they were working out by lifting chairs. Now, I'm sorry, but that is a health and safety incident waiting to happen. In past years, the house has actually had access to a gym, but only for about 1 to 2 hours a day. And I still don't understand why they don't just give them a gym in the garden like the way they do in other Big Brothers. And okay, it could be because the weather's crap, but they can put a shelter over it. There's no need for them to be lifting chairs. I'm really sorry, I don't know if I'm saying her name right. I'm really trying. Is it Faisala? She was talking to Caroline and she was saying, I've got really nice boobs. And Caroline was talking about having breast cancer and how she discovered it and everything. And at the start, I wasn't too sure about Caroline, but I'm actually really liking her up until our conversation later with George, and I'm like maybe questioning it a wee bit now. Zila was in the diary room saying that he was feeling pressured because outside the house he feels like an extrovert, but in the house he feels more introverted, and he feels like he should be making more effort to talk to the housemates. And it's such a shame, because people think that I'm an extrovert, but in certain situations when I'm meeting new people or group interviews or something like that, like I literally inside I'm struggling, but people always say that I seem really confident, and it's probably the same with him. So he was talking to Jenny about his relationship, and I found it so interesting because he was a lesbian and he was in a lesbian relationship, and I actually seen his girlfriend on TikTok talking about him being up for nomination, and he says that he transitioned while they were in that relationship and she nursed him back to health and helped him and all that. So I know it's nobody's business what people identify as, right, as like sexuality or whatever, but I'm just so interested now to know if his girlfriend, like if she identified as a lesbian before, does she now identify still as a lesbian or straight or bisexual? I don't know, it's just, I really just would love to know that. To have somebody love you to such a degree that they'll stay with you even if they change gender is magical. Like one of my friend's husbands told her that if she put on any more weight he was going to leave, and his girlfriend stayed with him even though he changed gender. Wow. The housemates went into the snug one by one and they were talking about who they'd like to stay and who they'd like to go. And anytime somebody mentioned Cameron in a negative way, I was like, you keep Cameron out of your dirty mouth and you leave Cameron alone. The absolute fucking audacity. Now, the thing is, a lot of people seem to mention that they didn't talk to Cameron or whatever, but that's not really how the final vote went. It was insinuated in the house that the 4 of them had already chose Gani, and they used the interviews as a kind of excuse to blame the entire house. And I think that's true, but also I'm glad they didn't put Cameron up because I love him. Cameron was talking to Sam in the garden and he was asking the difference between a gay bar and a straight bar, and Cameron was saying like the people in his community maybe aren't as accepting as they should be, and he says that he didn't have any confidence and he's never been in a relationship, and he says he needs a gay wingman. He's so cute. Gani was in the diary room upset and he says, I think that they might put me up because they might think I'm performing for the cameras. Now, there is people that I know who literally dance and sing and prance about and they just make a show constantly. And it can be exhausting at times depending on who it is in the situation. And when you're in a house with so many different personalities, it could be difficult. Like, I'm not really one for singing and dancing and prancing about, but I know that spending a lot of time with me can be exhausting. So I get where he's coming from. Elsa, Marcus and Zila were in the garden trying to get to know each other, and Elsa was talking about her parents. And I was watching it with my friend and he says, why does she speak like a child? And to be honest, I never actually noticed it, but after he said that, then that's all I could hear. When Marcus started talking about himself, Elsa went, I'm adopted. And I don't think that she did it. I don't think she was trying to be rude. I've got a bad habit of doing things like that. I've got a bad habit of interrupting people when they're talking, and it even annoys me. But she was talking about like meeting her birth mum when she was 18 and meeting her dad and how he looked like her and stuff like that. And everybody in the garden was like, oh my God, that's amazing, right? And even though it is fascinating, I think I just know that many adopted people that it doesn't shock me anymore. It's interesting, but they were all acting like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like as if they'd never met an adopted person before. But she was saying that she would like to adopt, and I personally never wanted kids. But if I had have come into a lot of money and maybe I was bored or whatever, then I probably would have adopted as well. I don't know what it is about Elsa. It's not that I don't like her, and I believe in psychic mediums to a certain degree, right? So it's not as if I don't think she can speak to dead people. Personally, I don't believe in demons, but everybody's got their own beliefs. There's something about her that I just find false. And ever since I found out who her ex-boyfriend is and the way he is and the people that she associated with, it makes it so difficult for me to believe that she is this kind, loving person. But I know that just because you're going out with somebody doesn't mean to say that you're like them. But it's just, I'm finding it hard. May I say that I actually really liked George's outfit in this episode. And I feel so bad for some of the things I said about him in episode 1, but I still don't agree with what he said to Cameron about sugar, and I still don't agree with what he said about young girls all being the same. But he did seem a bit more chilled in this episode. So the 4 new housemates had to stand in the living room and give out the evil eye and give their reasons, and Faishala was like really upset, and I felt so bad for her, right? But they all kind of gave the same reason, and Richard said that he felt like Gani was a bit performative. So when they were in the diary room talking about this, Richard said to Big Brother, I would like to take Zila off and change my vote, and Big Brother was like, no, and he's like, oh, I would really like to change my vote, right? And Big Brother's like, no, have you ever watched Big Brother? That's not how it works. So Richard's obviously upset that Zila's up. They feel as if they've made the wrong decision. When they gave Gani the eye, everybody was like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. But they probably would have been like that no matter who it was. After they gave him the eye, Richard was outside with Caroline and he says, I fought. But he didn't mean he fought for Gani. He was talking about Zila, but obviously wasn't allowed to say any names. Caroline was then speaking to George in the garden and she says, oh, Richard said he was really fighting for it. And George says, no, he didn't fight for anything. But he did fight for something, just not Gani. Caroline and George were then sitting talking about politics. I've said it a million times. I really wish they weren't allowed to speak about politics in the Big Brother house. It just annoys me. And also, I can be very judgmental about people depending on who they vote for. And if you've watched my videos in the past, you'll know that Tories go in and I go, oh my God, Tories this, Tories that. And then I've ended up, they've been my favourite person. So I don't want that to cloud my judgment. But Caroline said that she knew Nigel Farage. And then Tasia came up and she's like, you know Nigel Farage? And she got into a political discussion with George. And at that point, Caroline was like, shit, I've said too much, I'm out here, and just fucked off. And while I was quite impressed with Tasia standing up for what she believed in and the discussion that they were having, the whole time I was thinking, this doesn't need to be part of Big Brother. Let me know what you think. Do you think they should be allowed to speak about politics in the Big Brother house? I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to speak about it in other Big Brother houses. George was also speaking to Sam about people being transgender and says, I think that kids can be influenced by it. And I was actually quite surprised that he was having this conversation and he wasn't being like a total dick about it, because that is what I expected. But let me know what you thought of last night's episode. Have you warmed to George a wee bit? And also, somebody sent me a clip saying that 2 people have been removed from the house. Let me know in the comments if you've seen anything about this, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.